Cool. Green, I won't press anything else. Cool. Guys, thanks for having me here today. My name is Jake Welsh, Managing Director of Dept. For those who don't know who Dept is, I thought I'd lead off with that because it tends to help. It's not a sales pitch, but it gives you an idea of who we are and what our philosophies are. Effectiveness is a huge part of what we're about at Dept. To underpin effectiveness is very difficult. The way we describe it is effectiveness is most effective when it doesn't cost you anything more. That's the most important thing we try and break down. Being effective shouldn't necessarily cost more, okay? It's about being smarter and it's about necessarily thinking different. So what we've called today is keeping up with consumer advancement. Okay, so how do we describe ourselves at Dept? Okay, so we see the world through a lens of limitless possibilities. That's how we describe ourselves at Dept. We don't like obstacles, we don't like hurdles, and we like to ensure that we apply pragmatic ways of thinking to our work. And the three core principles that we work off at Dept, as you can see on the screen, they're driven by technology, creativity, and data. So they're the three core pillars that we use as an agency. And we use those pillars for ourselves, and we use those pillars for our clients. So as we were kindly introduced, my intro was nowhere near as impressive as Karen's. I don't play music. We were founded 4 years ago. So in 4 years, we've grown aggressively. We employ just over 1,500 people. We're based in 16 different countries and cities, from New York, Boston, San Fran, Manchester, London, Zurich, Copenhagen. We have a very large footprint across the globe, which many would say is quite an aggressive growth in such a short space of time. But again, as an agency, we've had to use effectiveness to allow ourselves to do that. So some of the clients that we support vary massively. From some brands that you'll know and recognise, from Sony, Bang & Olufsen, Bose, Netflix, Panasonic, PlayStation, Unilever. So we are exposed to a really diverse range of clients, which from an effectiveness point of view really means that we've got to keep our thinking caps on continuously. Now the services that we offer, which will start to move away from Dept, but it definitely helps, these are the 6 kind of main core services that we offer, from transformation, digital marketing, brand and advertising, 360 commerce, through to design and tech, and data. Okay? So, big question, why are we here today? When we saw the headline of effectiveness, it really resonated with the challenges that we face, not only as our own brand, but as a challenge for every brand that we support across the globe. So as the world's fastest growing digital agency, we get asked a lot of questions. Some are crazy, some are important, some aren't, okay? Main one, will you hire my nephew? No, okay? Just doesn't happen, okay? But the most common question that we get asked, and the most important, that every single one of our brands asks, is how can we and how do you keep up with consumer advancement? It's a question that every single brand, whether you're a B2B product, a B2C product, an agency, a sole trader, whatever you are, how do we keep up with consumer advancement? And there's a huge word that floats around different generations, from millennials to Generation Z to Generation X. It's the same thing. Consumers have changed for centuries. It's not something that's new. And every single time brands have had to advance with that. But how fast they've had to advance has really accelerated over the past 5 years. So what we tend to do with our clients is we tend to break this down into 2 core defining categories that we have to come to accept, okay? And the 2 core things that we have to come to accept are that consumers live in a new reality, okay? Consumers live in a new reality. What does that mean? Okay, we break that down even further. Okay, a business transaction is temporal. Okay, is temporary. A relationship, on the other hand, is eternal. Okay? And consumers are hungry for an eternal relationship. It might sound obvious, okay? But it's true. Now, if we look at a relationship, whether it be with our partner, our family, our friends, our dogs, whatever it is, every relationship is underpinned by trust. Everything. Now, because these consumers and because we as consumers are advancing, our needs are advancing alongside that. So brands not only need to know that a transaction is temporary, it's short-lived, it's going down, a relationship will go up. Consumers' needs are aligned with that change. And the simple term is the fact that brands need to advance with that change, okay? Which is why we started off our presentation today with slow just became a big deal, because if you're not moving, it is a big deal. So, how? How as a brand do we keep up with that consumer advancement? And this internally at Dept is how we describe it, okay? It's a long sentence and there's a lot in it and there's a lot to absorb in it, okay? But I'll break it down, okay? Human first creativity crafted by data. That is how we believe every brand across the globe can break down that challenge of consumer advancement, okay? So what do we mean by that? I, as head of creative and managing director of Dept, I'm not a huge fan of the word data, okay? I'm just not, even though it's one of our pillars, okay? Not a huge fan. It's overwhelming, it's an intimidating word, it's quite scientific, it's quite technological. Many brands know they have to do something with their data, they don't even know where to start. They don't even know what it is. We've got CRM, we look after our data. Yeah? Doesn't really mean that much, unless you're using that information to do something with it, okay? So if we break out what data is, and we break out the meaning of what data is there for, yeah? Simple overview. Things known or assumed as facts, making the basis of reasoning or calculation. Now the way that we break that down is really, really simple. Let's get down to grassroots level, okay? Data is simply you, nothing else. It's people. And what makes up people, as the previous presentation also touched on, along with the previous ones before that, is that we're all made up of strands, okay? We're made up of feelings, behaviors, habits, emotions, desires, ambitions, worries, values, and impulses. We are what make up the data. And not enough brands look at that data to advance themselves forward. They look at that data to say, hey, we only emailed him last week, we can send out another next week. We can look at our data to say, hey, he bought our vacuum cleaner, but he didn't buy our Dyson. Let's send him a marketing concept, okay? They use it around automation, they use it around decision making, they don't use it around what consumers actually want. Now, what we do is we take that data, okay? We take the data that we've got from our clients and we start to use that data and apply it to different pillars, okay? We use our data to define our strategies, that's what we do. So to define our strategy, we have to have data. If we don't have data, we don't have a strategy. And that's me, I'm creative, yeah? I hate data, but I need data, okay? We use our data to provoke new ways of thinking. That is what effectiveness is about. Effectiveness is about new ways of thinking. It doesn't have to cost more. It's about thinking differently. We use our data to build much longer lasting relationships with our consumers. As I said to you before, a business transaction is temporal, okay? It's got a life cycle of a very, very short span. We use our data to keep ahead of our consumer needs, okay? Any brand that is delivering what the consumer expects has a problem. Because it's the expected. Every brand needs to be delivering one step ahead continuously, and it's data that gives us that insight. And the final one, we use our data to connect to a consumer's desires. Okay, so what we all desire as individuals in this room will all be very, very different from one another. And we have to know what that is to speak to you in the right way. So the guys before me said, and Karen touched on it as well, between 5 and 10,000 adverts a day? It's crazy. It's crazy. It's becoming meaningless. We're becoming numb, we're becoming desensitized, we're becoming blunted to what brands are doing and saying. And it's effectiveness that changes that. So from this data, we start to be able to craft our creativity. Okay? We start to be able to craft our creativity into 3 core channels. Okay? We build our creativity around the world in which consumers live. We use our data to build our creativity around our brand and also our product. Okay? Any business that is product first, again, has a problem. Okay? You cannot have a product-first business. And people may disagree, but that's where the business world is heading. Okay? We use our data to craft our creativity to deliver the right message at the right time on the right medium. Okay? So out of the 4,000 to 10,000 adverts that you guys are being exposed to, we should be using our data to say when and to say why. So, what we wanted to do today is demonstrate 3 cases that put that into action. 3 very, very different cases, okay? So, the first case study is quite timely, yeah? I came to Madrid, as did Karen, for sun, and we brought the rain, okay? Disappointed to say the least, okay? Human first creativity crafted by data, okay? It's the time of year in our homes, we all need to turn the heating up, more so in Manchester, okay? A thermostat, the most bland, unsexy, unattractive, probably least thing you've thought about today in the world, okay? But we all have one somewhere, okay? We have to. If you don't, I don't know how you're doing it. Thermostat, okay? We all have one. Heat miser. We're looking at 2 brands today. Heat miser. You've got 10 seconds to absorb the message that Heat miser are telling you, okay? This is a brand that you're going to be hit with today, and it's there. You've got 10 seconds. You've now got 4. You've now got 1. They're the messages that it's giving you, okay? This was Heat miser's opportunity to engage with different audiences, different ages, different generations, cultures, demographics in this room. And they are the 4 key elements that they wanted to display. Okay? So if you're going to get a Heat miser, other brands are available, you're going to get illuminated keys. Okay? So your thermostat's going to light up. It's going to come with proximity sensors. It's ultra slim, free delivery. Okay? Just to make it clear, 4.5 years ago, if an e-commerce platform was to display free delivery, a commerce platform would expect a minimum 30% uplift on sale. Same day. Next brand, Nest. 5 seconds left. This is the message that Nest wanted to display to you as consumers in the room, okay? It remembers when you wake up. It remembers when you get home. It learns about your family and your family's movements. And it knows the seasons so you don't have to. Okay? On arms in the air, which of you today would buy Heat Miser? Okay, had one hand there. Do you work at Heat Miser? No. Okay. You sure? Nest was 4 times the price. Okay? Nest was 4 times the price. Arms in the air for who was going to buy a Nest. Okay? Now, for those who don't know, Nest was bought by Google for $4.5 billion, just over 3 years ago. Okay? If Google wanted to make a thermostat, they would, very quickly. Yeah? They bought the data. They wanted to understand how Nest knew their consumers so well. And if we use our data to drive our creativity, to drive effectiveness, to drive a relationship, we're winning as a brand. So if we start to break down all of these emotions and impulses, just look at what Nest did to stimulate that purchase. Okay? And I'm going to make it clear again. It is a thermostat on a wall that now knows you. You're crazy. Yeah? And it's 4 times the price. But we as consumers look at Nest and say, it knows me. It knows me. My thermostat knows my children. It's crazy. Yeah? But this is how we're advancing as consumers, okay? We were shown a product on the first instance, just a product. It's not doing it anymore. Now, if you look at what Heat Miser did in terms of how it advanced with its consumers, you've got to ask yourself the question, did it advance? Has it advanced? Did it use its data to drive its creativity? Did it use its data to be effective? Did it use its data to drive its campaign strategy? And the answer is no. Now, the next campaign that I'm going to show you out of the 3 that we're talking about today is a brand called Johnny Walker. Can I have a raise of hands for those who know what Johnny Walker is? I did an event a month ago and everyone was like, I don't even know what Johnny Walker is. Like, okay. So, Johnny Walker, okay? It's one of the world's most recognized whiskey brands, okay? And Johnny Walker, although it's a magnificent brand, a colossal brand in its space, has its own challenges. And even a brand like Johnny Walker needs to be effective. It also needs to be diverse. But it doesn't necessarily have to spend money more than it would on its own products to be diverse, okay? What are the challenges that Johnny Walker faces, okay? These are the challenges daily that this brand faces. It's naturally embracing an older audience, okay? It's associated to expensive and premium and opulent brands. So Johnny Walker, for those who know, sponsors things like Formula One. It's quite premium, it's quite regal. You don't sponsor Formula One unless you've got a relative amount of funds to do so, okay? It's seen as a product for somebody who understands whiskey, okay? Which is good, but it's a challenge. It's not for the casual and inexperienced whiskey drinker. And the biggest challenge that these guys face, which brings everything together, is that they struggle with younger audiences, as many of our existing brands do. Okay? Now, as a digital agency, as people, as brands, we have decisions to make. And we like to break decisions down into simple terms. These are the 3 decisions that we have, okay? as a brand, we accept our market position. This is who we are, this is what we do, and we are comfortable with that. Many brands do that, okay? If we do that, we have to be honest, we're not moving forward. It's a big problem. We are not moving forward, okay? The second thing we can think about is that we change our core product line. So our Johnnie Walker bottle, which is a beautiful bottle, quite expensive, we start to think about bringing out Johnnie Walker Jr. No tweed, leather. Glasses, no. Sunglasses. Yeah? We start to think differently. The downside of that, it affects our equality, our equity, and our values of who we are as a brand, okay? It's like Rolex bringing out an entry-level £200 Swiss watch. It's not happening, okay? It's not happening. And the final option that we've got is that we drive out a different message. So rather than going out there as "Hi, we're Johnnie Walker, we're from the hilltops," we say, "Hi, we're Johnnie Walker, fucking drink whiskey." Yeah? Sounds cool. But the audience that they've built are going to be sat at home with their Johnnie whiskey thinking, "I didn't buy into this." And that's the challenge that a live existing brand faces, especially one as opulent as Johnnie Walker. Okay? So what did they do? Does anyone know? Good. They took the data from the consumer market to understand why they could not penetrate the younger market. Why were they not effective in the younger market? They didn't want to spend loads more money. They wanted to spend the same amount of money that they would on their own line of products. They also didn't want to alienate their brand. So from understanding the market, they knew that people in the younger audiences didn't like to buy expensive whiskey because a lot of them didn't like how it tastes. They watch the movies, people are drinking whiskey on the rocks. Yeah? It's ideological. So they knew that. They also started to understand that they wanted to be seen at the bar drinking something cool. They also understand that people buying whiskey can be quite overwhelmed if you're inexperienced at buying a good whiskey. Okay? The result? We'll need sound for this.
Let's talk about the rules of whiskey. They say you should drink it neat, never ever with a mixer. You're only allowed a splash of water, or if you must, a single cube of ice. They say it's best enjoyed alone. Take it seriously. Swill it around. Let it breathe. Whiskey is a man's drink. To be drunk by an open fire. Wait until it's old. Wait until you're old. And when it comes to whiskey, it should be drunk in silence. Ignore what they say about rules. Make your own rules. New Clubman from Hague Club.
Okay. They brought out a brand, they brought out a product, and the product was called Hague Club. Okay? What was the Hague messaging? Okay? First of all, it did have David Beckham in it. From my perspective, that makes a product cool. Okay? I hope we all agree on that point. The wording, the narrative, yeah? From the hilltops to the cityscapes, okay? The bottle design. Looks like a perfume bottle. Yeah? Doesn't look like a whiskey bottle. Purposely, you cannot see the whiskey in the bottle. Okay? Dark spirits. Younger generation didn't like it. You can't see the whiskey in the bottle. The final point. What is the advert telling you? Yeah? It was parties. It was popularity. It was fun. It was youth. It was break the boundaries. Okay? And the most intelligent part of what Johnny Walker did, and most people still don't know, that Hague is owned by Johnny Walker. That's the incredible part about their effectiveness. Okay? They could have spent the exact same amount of money on their Johnny Walker product and had David Beckham drinking that product, but they didn't. They protected the equity that they had, they developed a new product to move, and they were effective in their solution. But the most intelligent part about this entire piece is that Hague became their pathway for Johnny Walker. They penetrated the younger market by providing a cool, chic, opportunistic brand that got people interested in whiskey. And when people got interested in the whiskey, they then had the confidence to go up the chain of spending more and become what we call in the UK, the connoisseur of whiskey. Okay? So now what they've got is a stepping stone to the golden brand. Very, very effective and a very intelligent use of the data that they collated to drive their creativity. Now, the final one that I'm going to talk you through today is a live case study, and it's a case study that only went live 8 weeks ago in Dept. Okay? Has everyone heard of Ascot Racecourse in the UK? Anybody? 1, 2, 3. Yes. Okay. It's the most famous racecourse in the UK. It's owned by the Queen, so it's pretty important. Yeah? From our perspective anyway, maybe not from everyone else's. Yeah? Ascot Racecourse has been going for over 200 years. Okay? This was what their proposition was defined on. Heritage and history, betting and odds, horse breeds, terrain, jockeys and trainers, trophies and statistics. Okay, that is when you landed on Ascot, when you saw an advert from Ascot, or when you were being communicated to by Ascot. Now, we were invited in to pitch for Ascot. Okay, now because we're 4 years old and we like to think that we are disruptors, yeah, we went in there with a different approach. We had to challenge Ascot's way of thinking. And the first way of doing that was by gathering data to decide our effectiveness and our creativity. And the first words that we said, and the last words that we said, were, no one likes horse racing. That was meeting one that ended at that exact sentence. Ascot were appalled. Do you mean no one likes horse racing? Yeah? Our business is built on horse racing. And we said it's not. It's not. It was. It's not. We went out, we gathered our data. This is what Ascot believed of their customer. This is what Ascot perceived of their customer. Competitive by nature, interested in the very best horses, common gamblers. What is their biggest worry about attending Ascot Racecourse? Not winning. Okay? The reality. 42% of their audience didn't know how to bet on a horse. My favourite, because this is how I bet, 61% choose the horse they bet on by name. Golden Balls. Yeah? Ramos. Yeah? It's crazy. 61% choose by the horse's name. Okay? 56% had never been to the races. 68% were unsure how horse racing actually worked. Okay? Now, when we presented this back to Ascot, it was a tough meeting, but it started to warm. Okay? But the final stat that we wanted to say was that 12% actually cared if they won. 12%. Okay? So 12% of people that go to a race day care if they won. So we started to dig deeper into that data to allow Ascot to become effective without spending a pound more. This is how people felt attending a race day. Okay? Their biggest worry was what to wear. Okay? Their second biggest worry was the weather. Okay? Third biggest worry, queues for the bar. Okay? Fourth biggest worry, how do I get home if I've had a drink? Okay? No gambling. No mention of horses. Okay? Main thing, emotion. I hope I have a good time. I hope I get to eat some good food. I hope I get to make some memories. So what do we start to learn? The real Ascot proposition, is there's 6 key pillars of why people attend a day at Ascot. And these are them. To break away from real life, to dress to impress, and to be someone else for the day. Okay? Very emotive pillars. Very relationship-led pillars. Very trust-led pillars. Because if I'm paying Ascot, I'm going to be very, very disappointed if I don't make memories. Okay? Very disappointed. A business transaction is temporal, a relationship is eternal, and that is where Ascot had to evolve. So 61% of people worried about what to wear. I will be honest, it was primarily women, okay? The hats, the dresses, the stilettos, the shoes, everything. Okay? But even the men, the top hats, the tails, the tweed, what do I wear? 73% were just anxious about what the day entailed. 70% were more concerned about the weather. 86% were there for food. Okay? So what did this tell us, and how did this allow us to make Ascot more effective? This is the latest campaign billboard that we did for Ascot. Okay? What's furthest away, and what is no one really looking at? Okay? The horse race will go on. We trust Ascot that the horse race will go on. But I'm there because I want to build memories. I'm there because I want to look good. And I'm there because I want to experience it all. Now, what this started to then articulate was the technology, the apps, the creativity, and the experience that Ascot needed to define. So rather than investing £150,000 into betting apps to allow people to bet quicker, we scrapped it. We said no. No. What your consumers want is a widget that day by day will tell you what the weather is going to be. We want a widget that allows people to book their parking before they arrive. We want a widget that's chatbot driven, that as people are on their way, will guide you into the arena. If people want to gamble, they'll find it. But 86% of us do not care. This is in 12 weeks. Okay. 46% increase online revenues, 12 weeks. This is a brand, we normally describe it when you're working with a commerce client like an orange. Have you squeezed the orange? And we refer to the orange as a metaphoric revenue. Have you squeezed the revenue out of your business? Ascot, not even peeled it, mate. 46% in 12 weeks. 32% conversion rate increase. Most brands are driving for a 1% increase. 32%. 428% data growth. Why? Because I want a relationship with you. I want a relationship with your brand. Okay? Now, to start to conclude this on effectiveness, and the things that I want you guys to take home from today is, I suppose, in some ways the Dept way of working, but also realizing that effectiveness doesn't necessarily have to cost money. The questions that we've got for you before you guys enjoy the Madrid weather. Consumers have advanced with their needs and their desires. And I think you genuinely have to sit in a room and ask yourselves, have you? Every brand sits here and says, how can people come to our brand? How can we drive more people to our brand? Red Bull reversed that thinking 6 years ago. Because Red Bull's philosophy is we will give to get back. And that's why Red Bull will go to your local skate park, your local diving arena, and they'll rebuild it. They'll brand it, and they'll walk away. Because they want to get you invited into their brand and build a relationship from day one. Is your brand working and thinking in the same way? Every single one of the brands that we used as a case study today use trust to build a relationship with you. These are the 3 questions we ask every client at the start of every meeting. Okay? Every meeting. What are you doing differently to advance with consumer behaviour? Are you advancing the brand that you own, work in, market, as yourself or as your consumer? Are you using human-first creativity, crafted by the data that's telling you what to do next? Consumers want more from you. Find out what it is and give it to them. What you do next as a brand matters. Gracias.